Welcome to the girls. Today we're on an outing at the Valley Country Club.
Yes, we are.
And you're wondering why I have green on. As you can see, green is the color of the Valley Country Club because look at all these picture windows. Janine, everything is all green. We're surrounded by the gorgeous golf course.
If you're wondering why I have pink on, it's because I just like the color.
Well, because you went to more races and
did.
you got a beautiful top again.
Yeah, pink. Like our show.
You're in the pink.
Yes.
Well, today's show is going to be very inspiring because we have a special guest on who we know for a long time, but she is now a published author. Her name is China Meyers, and she wrote a 7-part book she's in the process of, but has book number 1 of a novella, and it's very inspirational. It's called A Letter to God. So she'll be joining us a little later. And how about reading that book?
I cannot wait to have China on because I read the book. And then I emailed her quickly, and I'll let you know what I emailed her.
Yeah, I emailed the same thing to you. I was like, oh my gosh.
You read the book, and it's just, but we'll get to that later. But we wanted to talk about some fun things here at the Valley Country Club. It is a private resort, but some of the amenities are open to the public. So you don't have to be a member at the country club to host an event or outing here. We're actually in one of the ballrooms where they have weddings and award ceremonies and different functions here. I became a member of the Valley Country Club in the summer, and my kids have been using the pool and Mason Golf. They have a beautiful golf course, and they have indoor golfing lessons for the winter months here in Pennsylvania, which runs about October through May. So if you want to take part in anything winterized, you can do it here at the club. But they did a complete renovation here, so if you haven't been to the club and have been in the area for a long time, you might want to come on in and check it out.
Yeah, one thing they're very famous for is their events, of course, but they host the mistletoe ball for all the youth in the area, usually in the around the holidays. And as you were mentioning about all the renovations they've done, I got a neat cocktail over here. A lot of people meet here to have cocktails.
Yes, they do.
And
what do you have in there?
This is a cherry martini, and the tea is holding. One of the golf tees is actually holding
the cherries together.
So they do like to golf here. I'm not a great golfer. I do golf occasionally, and I want to tell you, I get my money's worth out of every swing because I must hit that ball 10, 12 times, whatever you're allowed.
I just ride the cart and laugh at everyone that's golfing that's not a pro.
Yeah, that was me.
You know. But they have social event. You can have a social event here. You can have private lessons with their golf pro, and they have pickleball and tennis and all kinds of things. But we'll be talking more about the club here on the show. They were graciously enough, they had us in here to tape our show today. So we're excited.
All the staff here is great. They're easy to work with. Their food is delicious. So if you are planning on having an event here, they're very well known for their food as well.
Yeah, that's after we tape the show. Then we eat at the restaurant.
Yes.
So China Meyers is our guest on the girls today. She was living in the area for some time, and then she's originally from, I believe, Brooklyn. She's here, and she wrote a book called A Letter to God. I cannot wait to tell you how it ends.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
We're here at the Valley Country Club taping The Girls, and remember, for your next social or outing, check out the rates. They're very competitive here at the club. We're happy to have China Meyers on with us. She's an inspirational writer, author, and she wrote a book, A Letter to God. We read part 1 of the book, and we're happy to have China on with us here on The Girls, so thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I really do.
Well, I'll tell you what, this book, as you explained to me when we came in today, that I wanted to choke you because it left me hanging. I was reading all through this book at the end
That
of my
was
scene.
the idea. Keep you know, cliffhanger.
Well, I read it in one scene, and I got to, and it said the end, and I thought, wait a minute. Is this a typo? Is it a what?
No.
You explained to me that's part of a novella.
Yeah, it is 7 series, and that was volume 1. So, you just got to wait for number 2.
Number 2, are you working on number 2 or is it
Yeah,
already done?
I am. I'm actually working on it now.
All right, well, it's called A Letter to God.
Yep.
A Letter to God, to me, carried through the entire story.
Yeah.
It really did. And so, starting at a very, very young age, you had a very challenging life.
Yeah, it was
And
crazy.
you clung to these rosary beads that your mother had given you.
Yeah, my mom gave me them, and, I didn't even know what to do with them, but I kept them wherever I went, So.
Let's start and talk about who you are, how you're in this area now, and your ties to this area. Let's start there.
I came here about 22 years ago when I got done with massage school, and I lived in Hazleton here for 22, almost 23 years. Loved it. Hazleton's a great place.
You're one of 6 children?
One of 7. I'm the last one on Job's back.
And your brothers and sisters are in the area, or are they?
No, my sisters actually, and my brother passed away in the book, but my sisters are, kind of spread out. Bermuda, Seattle, New York. I have one lives in Africa, so they're all over.
Okay. And what inspired you to write the book?
Well, I thought, my story, is different, of course, but I'm no phenomena. Everybody has a story, So I thought if I could write something where people could read it, maybe might be going through similar things, could find hope in it, because my faith really got me through,
Wow. Now, did you find your faith through the hard times, or did your faith carry you through the book?
That's a good question. When I was really young and my mother would take me to church. She was Catholic, so we'd go to Catholic church. And I would sit in there and I would cry sometime. And people would say, "Why are you crying?" It was because I love God so much. That was the only answer I have. Till to this day, I cry sometime when I go to church. But I think that's the reason why,
You get very emotional. You have a strong connection.
I do.
When Janine was asking you about when you found your faith, I marveled at how many times throughout the book, with all of the different obstacles you had to overcome, how many times in your young life at age 10 that you were so connected that you knew that praying and having faith in God, even in your young life, that took you through all of those
It really did.
It was just so inspiring to me to know that was able to do it. It was time after time after time. And when you said people have had experiences like this, I mean, I don't know anyone in my whole life that I've ever met that has gone and overcome the obstacles that you have overcome. I just have to applaud you to see you sitting here today.
But, I said, with God, He got me through.
I wanted to take the book, at least the first part of the book, after reading it and really hand it to my children. Because as a mom,
right,
as a mom, you want your children to know that they're loved. And you made a profound statement in your book saying, I don't think your mom ever said she loved you till it was later in life. So
later in life,
when your kids are teenagers and not having heard "I love you," that was a profound statement for me to.
I think it's important
to hear in the book, to read as a mom, because I think I tell my kids I love them 25 times a day.
Yeah, but there was that generation, though.
Yes.
I mean, that generation of women, and I don't know if it was just an African-American thing, but I know that generation had a hard time saying that. They had a hard time talking about sex. They had a hard time telling their children they loved them. I don't know why, but it was very prevalent,
What would you like to share about your history and upbringing? Without talking about specifics in the book, what can you tell our audience about your upbringing and your history?
Well, my mother had 7 children, and she had 2 womanizing husbands, and, they didn't work out, and so she raised us, the best she could. Now, her best might not be your best, might not be Sally's best, but it was her best, people might judge that, say, where was she, why did she do what she did, but as a mother, you make choices the best of your ability, and sometimes they're not right, but you think that you're doing the best for your children, and she tried to do that, and she gave me, there was no violence, there was neglect. And I found out as I got older that was, abuse. But she didn't do that purposely. She was working, trying to survive, And I've been there, single mom, trying to survive, leaving the kids home, I know a lot of single mothers have been there. So did she do it maliciously? I don't think so.
She did it out of necessity. And you
Right.
had older brothers and sisters as well, so I guess you were sort of raising one another.
Yeah, well, basically, my older sisters were really older, and because my mom had me when she was like 43, 45, around there. So because I was this independent person and, a little wise for my years, I kind of raised my older sister, who was 3 years older than me. So I kind of raised her. I took care of her. I washed her clothes. I made her food, stuff like that. So my older sisters were out of the house. They were gone.
Now, coming from a situation that you came from, I know every child does this. When they grow up, it's almost like, I'm going to do things differently of things that they didn't like in their childhood.
Right.
Any mom you talk to, at least, that's what, that's
definitely.
a comment that she makes, is something they didn't like in their childhood. And again, moms are human, dads are human, and they all make mistakes. There's no manual that says this is the right way to do
exactly.
things. Right,
And like you pointed out, it's not necessarily a mistake, it's just that they're doing the best they could do with what they have to work with at the time.
Exactly.
So there are no mistakes. And you
Right.
could look back on that and say, I would have done this differently, but that's now.
Right.
So at the time, that's what it was. And you're so wise and so forgiving and loving and caring to point that out when you said that.
I mean, it's a fact. We're all, when you're a mother, you just, I don't know. I watched a show the one time and it said, being a mother is a mental illness. It's true, isn't it? I mean, you love your kids crazily, and you're trying to do the best you can for them, and that could mean like neglecting them to make sure they eat.
Right.
So how has that helped you be a mom now that you're an adult?
Well, you'll see in other series, other volumes.
Which we better see this book, because I'm telling you, series 1 is crazy.
Hot off the presses. I want to be with you while you're
Sorry, I
writing
didn't mean to cut you off, but I can't believe how the series 1 ended. Go ahead.
But I did my best too. I tried my best and always had their, best intention, I had my best intentions towards them and tried to help them and do what I could for them as well,
What would your advice be for, these kids out there who maybe haven't seen it as hard as you, or have seen anything hard, and, sometimes I feel the coping skills with this generation is just not there.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I tell kids, suck it up.
And life's not fair. That's
right.
my line.
That's
Life's
right.
not fair.
Suck it up, because you could, one, have it a lot worse. Two, you have to learn to deal with things and keep moving forward. That's any of us. Everything happens in our life, and to us, for us, from us, and we just have to keep moving forward, trying to be better people. That's all we can do.
All right, we'll stay right there. When we come back, we're speaking with China Meyers. We have more about the book. Don't move.
Welcome back to the girls. We're here at the Valley Country Club. They have graciously hosted the girls. We're in one of the beautiful ballroom areas. Remember that you do not have to be a member to enjoy some of the amenities here, like hosting an event and a social, and it's the best time to get involved and also find out about rates, because they are on point. So check them out, the Valley Country Club. We're happy to have China Meyers with us today. She is an inspirational writer. We're talking about her book. She wrote volume 1, left us hanging. We're going to leave you hanging because we figured we would pay it forward, right? But you're working on volume 2, and
Yes.
it's really a 7-part series.
Yep, 7 parts, and
A letter to
each
God.
one just as gripping as the other.
Well, the first one was gripping, especially when you had to, you were sent to live with your brother at one point.
Well, what happened was when I was 14 and my mother found out I was pregnant, she didn't put me out right away. We had an argument, and I was very nasty to her, and she told me to get out. Well, in hindsight, if she would have told me to get out, I would have said no. But, I was strong-willed and thought I was independent, and I left. And so I ended up on the street, you know, for a couple of weeks. I was living out of, you know, abandoned houses and stuff.
And where was this? Was this
Brooklyn?
in Brooklyn? Okay.
And
14.
I was 14, yeah, and pregnant. And so then I had the baby, and I was actually still going to school because there was food there and a place to wash my private area, and you know.
Yeah.
And so I went to school, and then I had the baby, and I lived with my sister. I asked her, could I come live with her, and she told me I could, and stuff happened there, and she put me out. Then I lived with another sister, and she put me out. And, you know, people think, oh, she put you out, that's horrible. Well, you know...
Read the book.
Right. You
Things
gotta read the
happened.
book. You know, things happen. And,
There's
you know...
two sides to every
there's
story,
two
right?
sides to every story. And I was, you know, some to blame, you know. So then I thought of my brother because I didn't really know him. He was my older brother, much older. And he actually thought that we looked alike, so he was pretty, you know, enamored with me. And they said he used to take me all the time, which I didn't remember. And so I thought I should call him to see if maybe I could, you know, go live with him. And I did, and he said, sure, you know, come see me, you know. And,
Did he know you were pregnant?
No, he didn't know. And so when I got there, you know, he said that I could work for him if I wanted to make money, and I said sure. And he said,
And he had a little cigarette shop or something.
he had like a little
as
candy store, and he made there were sandwiches that, so he had somebody working for him, and
So that's where you thought you were going to work.
that's where I thought I was going to work.
Then things progressed where you
Right.
found out that you weren't in a great situation, and we won't tell the whole story, but there came a point where your brother actually handed you a gun
Right.
and said, you have my back
Right.
at 14. How was that experience?
Well, it was really against my faith. You know, I thought this was crazy. What am I doing? You know,
Hail
I
Mary,
even
full of
went
grace,
to-
the Lord is with thee.
I even went to church and asked God to forgive me because I was, you know, really doing things that I felt I shouldn't have, you know, been doing. And it came out that I was, you know, he asked me to be his bodyguard. So I did that, and that entailed certain things that I had to do.
And how pregnant were you at the time? You're a bodyguard and you're pregnant.
I was like 8 months pregnant. So I had the baby like a couple months after, you know.
Now let's go back to when you were living with your mom, because there was a pivotal moment there in the book where you had been playing a game with your friends and your sister, and that what happened there. Explain what happened there that led to some issues with, you know, taking pills and them thinking that you were crazy and sent to a...
Well, I was about, I had just come back from Africa, so I wasn't back long, and I was going on 13 years old. And my mother wasn't home. It was my sister and I and some friends from the neighborhood. And we were playing Truth or Dare. And, you know, one guy had to eat his boogers and, you know. So when it came to me, they said, you go in the bathroom and you take any pill that's in the cabinet. So I was like, okay. I was 13. I was like, sure. So I figured, what could be so bad in that cabinet? You know, like maybe some aspirin or something, you know. So there was a bottle of pills, and I took the whole bottle.
Overachiever, huh?
Yeah, overachiever. I was like, I'm going to do this really good. And so I woke up. I was in a mental institution. You know, and my arms were bound and my legs were bound, and I couldn't move. And I got scared, and I began to pray. And you know, a nurse came in, and she said, "You're okay. You know, you're going to be all right, and we're here to help you." And I didn't see my mother. I didn't know, you know, how this happened. So my mother came in, and she said, "Why did you do that?" And I'm thinking, what is she talking about? I was playing Truth or Dare. What did I do? So she said, "You know, you tried to kill yourself?" She goes, "You know, was it that bad, you know?" And I said, "I don't know what you're talking about." So that moment, I realized that my sister didn't tell her that it was a game, you know, and that I didn't try to kill myself.
And that escalated the relationship of how you ended up moving out. But what can we expect from Volume 2? and I better get it soon.
That's why I'm keeping her hand here, because she's going for it.
Because I emailed you right after I read it, and you know, I'm thinking, I turned the page because it's a good read, it's an easy read, and it was like the end. I was like, the end? I got on the computer, I'm emailing away. Like, what happened to, you know, the part that it ended at? So that was volume 1.
Yeah. So part 2 is about the carnival.
Okay.
Because I left, I was like going on 19, and I left my brother after he got shot, and I pulled the bullet out of his body, and you know, then
That's the good stuff for the book.
So
Blood and guts, literally.
yeah, I went to the carnival after that.
How do people get a copy of this book? How do they get in touch with you?
Amazon, you can get it from Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, Kobo, Smashwords. You can get it all those places.
You better take time and write the rest of these volumes if there's 7, right?
Yeah.
A letter to God. Think about it, folks. How many things have you gone through? I guess we all need God in our life, and we need all of the inspiration we could get. You're an inspiration to us.
Thank you.
I applaud you for making
for
it through
having me.
everything you've gone through, and for sharing your story with us.
Appreciate it.
Partially. We're hanging on here by our fingernails to hear the rest, and we're going to be chatting with China for a little longer, but make sure you tune in to the girls and go read that book. We'll see you next time.